Today you'll see some amazing woven tops that have princess seams that are a little bit different because they come from the neckline. Super unique design. Hi sewing friends, I'm Karina from liftingpinsandneedles.com. Welcome to this channel that is all about sewing, limitless sewing, and I have some woven sewing to share with you today. That always makes me really happy. Most of my fabric collection is composed of woven fabric, so I tend to generally get a lot more excited about it. And also the sewing, the feel is just always so much nicer with wovens in my opinion. Maybe it's just because I started sewing with woven as a child and I got really used to it. It's called Santorini and it's brand new from Itch to Stitch patterns. Designed to be a type of staple that is really easy to wear. You can pull this right on over your head. It's sleeveless with a nice closed armhole, and the way that you finish it inside is very neat with an all-in-one facing. Love that method because it gives you such a neat result on the inside. Very nice. I love that method. So that involves facings. I think the uniqueness of this pattern is due to the shape of the princess seam. Usually princess seams come from either the shoulders right here or the armhole, like a curve like this. But with that manipulation, you can put those bust darts in different places, and you can put that bust dart on the neckline and then transform that into a curve. So you'll see that the curve comes like this. And I think that is a really beautiful design line. I love it. And you'll see that shape both on the front and the back of this top. It's designed to hit the mid to high hip. Another little detail that you find is really interesting is that you have a button placket on one of the side seams. I think this is more decoration though, because you don't need to button this up to get into the top itself, because there's enough ease for you to just put it on over your head. But I think it looks really pretty. Because the Santorini top is a brand new pattern at Itch to Stitch, it's 20% off through Monday the 12th of June. I will leave you my affiliate link down below if you'd like to purchase your pattern through there. It won't cost you anything extra, but I do make a small commission from there. And that's one of the ways I make an income, by doing all of this work on YouTube. You need woven fabric that doesn't stretch. I would not make this with a knit fabric. It would just lose the structure. I would not use something very light either. So medium weight fabrics I think are the best, and you don't need any drape in these designs. You use fabrics that are structured, which I think are the easiest to work with as well, but would just really show off the shape and the fit of this top. So linen, 100% linen would be perfect, and then you have linen blends where you can have a mix of linen and cotton or linen and rayon. Whenever you have another fiber mixed in with the linen, it tends to bring the cost of the fabric a little lower, not that much though, and then the crease factor is usually a bit less as well. So think about that. And then you have cotton, different types of cottons that are going to work. Quilting cotton, even if you have a nice print, cotton lawn. Then you have shirting, chambray. These types of fabrics are going to work really well. I wouldn't make this with 100% rayon, a super light fabric, a crepe, a silk. I think the structure of all of this and the princess seam would not look very nice. Could end up looking a little floppy in my opinion. Other than your fabric, you do need some fusible interfacing because you need that for the facings, for the placket here, and you need a few buttons. On the pattern you have marked 5 buttonholes and buttons. Sizing goes from 00 to 40 US. That goes up to a 62-inch hip. I think the best thing about Itch to Stitch is that you get separate cup sizes for woven patterns, which I think is great. So you'll find A, B, C, D and double D cup sizes here. I think fitting the bust is so important when we sew. So I think being able to have a good bust fit no matter what size we're sewing is amazing. Love that. And the amount of ease that you'll find in the Santorini top is just perfect, just right. It's not going to be fitted. It's not going to be boxy and loose. It's just going to be the right amount that you need to just pull this on over your head and wear it comfortably. So around the bust, you have about 4 inches extra, at the waist around 5, and then back at the high hip, you have around 4 inches. You'll find detailed length finished measurements there for each size. I have a C sewing cup size, so that is my option there, and I'm sewing a size 14 blended out to a 16 waist and hip. Now the blending here is not done on the sides, it's done on this area right here. Because of the placket, you don't want to mess with the shape there. So if you need a larger waist or a smaller waist, it's done in these seams that are sort of in the center. So just think about that because they're a little different to other patterns. Another common fitting adjustment that you might find you need is to lower the curve of the princess seam. So you know, these princess seams originate from darts. Usually when you see a dart and you usually have to lower a dart, you just do it because you know that it's something you need. But it's easy to forget that a princess seam comes from a dart. Some people don't lower their curves here on the princess seam. It's really important. If the volume of your bust is a little lower, you need that curve to reflect that, or else you end up with excess fabric here on the high chest. I'm lowering mine by 1¼ inches. These are the two pieces for the front. This is the center front, that is the side front. You can see that curve right here where there's more volume and where this comes in. This is what's giving the shaping for the bust. This volume here is at a certain height that I know is not my height. When I want to lower this and fix it, I just look for the notch. Kenneth always marks a notch here at the fullest part of the bust, the apex, and that's a really easy way to identify where the fullest part is meant to be on this pattern. I'm going to draw a rectangle around this, so around 1½ inches up from the notch. So this is the rectangle that I want to cut out here and then move it down, and I'm going to mark the same on this other side. On this side I'm also going to have a little rectangle, and right there. I'm just going to work on this one for now. Just cut this little rectangle out. I want to lower mine by 3 centimeters or 1¼ inch. So that's what I'm going to mark over here. So that distance right there. And then I'm just going to tape my rectangle lower. So that brought it down. I'm going to fine tune the feet here when I make the test garment, but I know that the volume now is going to be better matched. And then whatever seam comes underneath the volume of my bust, I can customize. For now, this is the waist right here, this notch here. And I just want to blend that line into that line there. This is my brand new curve. Now I need to bring down this one for the center front to match. This is much easier. You know, the distortion is going to be less, and do the same thing. I'm going to measure my 3 centimeters and then get this piece that was originally there and just tape it down lower here. And now I'm just going to blend that line to that line here. And I also think it's important, if you're not confident with fitting that much, especially if you're going to use a pricey fabric, just make a test garment. I like making my test garments non-wearable. I use horrible fabric for these. Here's my non-wearable muslin. I'm using a woven that's quite structured, sort of similar to what I'm going to use. Up closer, you can see that I've space stitched the neckline so that it doesn't stretch out, and I've done the same for the armholes. And then I think this was okay, although I do have a little bit of excess here, just a little bit that I'm going to pin away and just fix and transfer onto the pattern. Otherwise, the waist placement is good, the shaping in and out, amount of ease is good. I sewed the original length so that I could see it on me, and I think I'm okay with this length. I'm not going to add extra length. I thought I was going to. And I'm happy with the shaping at the back right there with the seams. I'm quite happy with the feet right here with this shaping right there, and I just need to customize right there. About the sewing, I have filmed the full sew along from start to finish over on my Patreon page. So if you are part of my Patreon membership and you are on the orchid tee, you'll be able to see the full sew along from start to finish. But here I'm just going to focus on very general construction and the button placket on the side. You know, each to stitch instructions are always really good, really detailed. You're going to be very happy to follow along because with each step you find nice graphics. On the table, I have the pieces that need to be interfaced for the Santorini top. These pieces on the side, these long pieces, have got to do with the button placket on the left wearer's side. It's slightly different. This straight one is going to go on the back piece, and this curved one is going to go on the front piece. Make sure you pay attention to the grain line marks so that you place it nice and straight and accurate. And the important thing is to cut these pieces with your print, your fabric right sides up, so that they end up on the correct side of the body. So make sure you pay attention to that. That's why you can see my print right there. For the front back facings, doesn't really matter. The important thing is that I like to interface first. So I have a larger piece of fabric here that is already interfaced, and I have the two facing pieces. Now on the pattern, you'll just have half of the facing piece. That's usually how you find them in all the patterns. I just put more paper here and replicate it so that I can have an extended piece, and it's much easier to cut and work with. Also much more accurate. All I'm going to do now is just cut these out with my rotary cutter. Here are all the pattern pieces for the Santorini top. These two pieces are going to be for the button placket that is going to be on the left side. These two pieces here are for the back. That's the center. You can see it's on the fold right there, and that's the side back. It's got similar shaping to what you have on the front with princess seams that come from the actual neckline on the top. This piece is the facing for the back. It's folded right there. That's the facing for the front, folded right there as well. This is the center front on the fold and the side front right there. With any woven project, you want to protect your neckline. So we're going to do some stay stitching there on the top and do some stay stitching on the armholes as well, just to protect them. You know, look at all this curve that's quite biased right there. This is linen, can have the tendency to grow and stretch out while we sew. I'm doing the back first, doing that little neckline on the center. I'm going from the edges to the center and then flipping the fabric and going from the edge to the center again. And then I'm doing the neckline of the side back piece from the shoulder into the center as well. And then I'm doing the armholes from the shoulder down towards the side seam. Using a regular stitch length, I'm going at about 3/8 of an inch, which is smaller than the 1/2 inch seam allowance we're going to use later on. And I'm going to repeat the exact same thing on the pieces for the front. So we have all that section with those stitches that's going to help us ease this curve into this piece. This is the center front right here, side front, side front. So now we just match up these seams, and if there's any excess around this area, that's where we're going to pull the strings to adjust this curved area into that straight edge right there. Here is the front all assembled, top stitched, all of that. You can see all this extra space right there. That's just the space that's going to fit the bust on the front. Okay, here is the back, all sewn in the same way. Now what I've done here is I've serged the right side seam as one. So if I put this on my back, this is going to be on the right side of my body. So that side seam has been serged already. This is the one that's going to have the placket, so that's just raw. That was just easy to get out of the way now. And I've also serged the top there on the shoulders because the next step are the shoulder seams. So now I'm just going to place the front on top. Piece also has that side seam already serged and the shoulders as well. And now all we need to do is unite the shoulders together. So both armholes are finished right there. The neckline is finished. We still have dangling side seams. And remember, I had serged the side seams only on the right wearer side. That's helpful because it's really easy to know which side I can sew right now. The left side over here, it's all raw. Don't do that. That's going to have all the facings, so we leave that for the end. But for now, we can actually sew the side seams of the right side. So all we need to do is match these up, the right side seam, including the facing, and sew it together all in one go. So now I'm sewing the right side seam. Look, if you wanted to simplify your top and not do the button placket on the left side, you could go ahead and sew the left side as per normal and just have a regular side seam. You use the same seam allowance. It's all the same thing. That's how I did my muslin. So if you wanted that, you could skip the button placket on the left. Now we're going to start working on the placket that's going to go on the left side of the body. And remember, there was a smaller curved piece. There's a side that has a notch and a side that doesn't have a notch on these long edges. So choose the side that does not have the notch. See, the little mark is right there. And this is the side that we're meant to press in by 1/2 an inch. So I have already gone ahead and done that. On this piece, you also find button marks. You'll find 4 here. There's actually 5 buttons on the blouse, but the other mark is on the facing piece, so don't get confused by that. So let's just put that here and get our top. This is our top. It's wrong sides up. You can see the facing is right here. You're supposed to have the front looking up at you, and now we have this by itself. You can see that buttonhole mark right there. Just leave it there for now. We need to bring this and align the raw edge here with the raw edge right there. So the folded edge is towards the inside of the facing. Align them here on the bottom. Make sure you have the wrong side of this piece looking up. Now when we sew this little thing and flip it, this will be like a continuation on inside. So now we're going to sew that tiny seam there, 1/2 an inch seam allowance. And now we have this facing with that extension, right sides together with the side seam. You're going to find the notch right there that marks where the waist height is, and you're going to have one on the other side. The facing is not going to reach all the bottom, so it's going to be 1/2 an inch short. That is fine. It's supposed to be like that. It's part of the way the pattern is, so don't think there's an error here. Now I am going to trim some of this away. I think it's too much seam allowance as per usual. Over here on this corner, I'm just going to fold the seam allowances onto themselves towards the facing. Now I'm going to head over to the iron and press it flat and then hand base that down, because then we edge stitch. You can see it's got a curve, and that's because this is a side seam. It's not a rectangle, so that's why this shape of the facing follows that. Just got a needle and thread, and I'm just quickly going to fix this down while this is flat right here. I don't want to lift it off because that's what gets your facings moving and wiggling around. One extra thing I'm going to do before going over to top stitch that facing is just press up the hem allowance. So I have already serged the bottom edge. On this side, the facing doesn't reach all the bottom. This edge is going to be folded there, and then this is going to come over and cover it, and that's how this is going to be finished. When we're almost at this little seam, I'm going to stop there, pivot, and then sew that down as well. Okay, so after doing this edge stitching and holding this facing down, you can hem if you want to. If you haven't still, so whatever method you're using, do it now. If you want to do that by machine, I'm going to take my other facing piece. This one's just a rectangle. There are two long ends. Both of them have a notch there. It doesn't matter which side you choose. Just choose one of these sides and press it in by 1/2 inch. That's what I've done right there. I'm going to take my top back. This is the other side. This is a straighter side, the one that goes on the back. And I just want to keep the facing down so it doesn't move anywhere. So I'm just going to give it a quick baste. We want to be looking at this right sides up like this. I've just basted that down right there. And now we want to take our facing and align it here. And you can see it's longer. It's going to protrude by 1/2 inch on the top and 1/2 inch on the bottom. Remember, at the bottom you've already hemmed, so you would have this fold already done. Remember, when you're sewing facings, you always want your interfaced facing on the top and the normal pattern piece on the bottom. So there we have this side sewn. I'm also going to cut away some seam allowance. It's just too much. Then I'm going to head over to the iron and press the seam allowance this way towards the facing. Fold that we already have is going to come over and cover it. On the tops of the facings, you'll find a mark there and a mark down there. Okay, so the seam allowance here comes towards the facing, here around where the waist notch was, and there's a little curve. I am going to snip a little as well to relieve tension. Fold this at those lines, this onto itself, right sides together. What we want to do is close off the top and the bottom. So I'm just going to pin right through the layers here. From that folded edge, we're going to sew all the way across there, and it's the same thing on the bottom. And now the bottom edge. Remember, your hem has already been done at this stage. I'm going to trim that seam allowance down. That's too much bulk. Now we're going to flip this. I just like to fold in these corners like that. I don't trim them away. And then flip, and you'll get a really nice little corner there. That's how this is going to look inside. And this facing starts from the very top and all the way to the bottom. And you can see that this actually extended this. So it's a little different to what we did in the front. I'm going to baste this down, and this should cover the seam by a hair, a tiny bit. Because the way this is going to be sewn on here is stitching in the ditch. We're going to be sewing right into that seam. I'm going to baste in the ditch itself. I'm going to put my needle right where I'm going to sew. Come out here and make sure I have some fabric there, some fold. I'm doing a color that's not too contrasting because sometimes it's hard to pull all of this out, but it is possible. And now when I come out, I'm going to come out right in the seam where I'm going to sew. So this doesn't take too long, and it's going to ensure me that I'm going to catch it on the other side when I stitch in the ditch here. See how I'm catching it right there? I'm catching it by like a 1/16 of an inch or something. So I'll just keep hand basting this until I reach the bottom. Now I don't like the actual stitch in the ditch foot. I just don't like the way it moves the fabric, at least for me. So I've had great success just sewing into the seam with my regular presser foot and just going slow. You can see the black thread catching it right here on this other side. Then we can do some buttonholes on the other placket on the other side. I'm marking with a bit of thread where each buttonhole is going to be. Because my stripes have different colors, it's just really hard to mark accurately. So when I have that problem, I don't hesitate to just mark my buttonholes with thread. You can see it's nice and centered in this section right there. Here is my first Santorini top in a stripy rayon linen blend, and you can see there are 3 colors in these stripes. I knew I wanted them more vertical because of the shape of this top. At the bottom here it gets quite wide, and I really didn't want horizontal stripes here. and the vertical stripes there. I really did not want the horizontal stripes on the side. So yeah, it just depends on the style. If it had been a more narrow piece in the center, then I would have been happy to do horizontal stripes and vertical. Otherwise, it's all vertical. And I made sure to mirror these when I cut them so that they were identical, so that the distortion of the stripes was exactly the same. So you can see that matches pretty good right there. Same as here where the waist comes in and the hips go out. You can see the stripes going in a different way. I think stripes are always going to let you see the design features if you want them to, rather than having a flowery print or a polka dot or any other type of print. This is the original neckline. I have my all-in-one facing inside. It's all neat, it's understitched, it's going to stay inside, it's interfaced. You know, I'm not expecting this to flop out when I wear it because of the type of fabric. I have the original length. Initially, I thought I needed to lengthen it by an inch, but when I made my test garment, I figured out, no, the original length is just right what I need. I don't need anything more. You can see that these princess seams come from the neckline. Love that. And it's the same on the back. Have the seams there on the neckline. There is some edge stitching done there to help it stay flat. I think the edge stitching is okay. I wouldn't have been happy to do any more top stitching than that. So usually when I'd seen a detail like this of a side placket, it was usually on a really boxy top that's just a rectangle going down, which makes it easier to sew as such, but is boxy. And if you're trying to avoid boxy styles, you know, this placket that is curved and follows the shape of the waist and everything, I think is genius, and it's so nice. Got all the buttons. I did actually make all the buttonholes and cut them open. It's fully functional. These are the buttons I've chosen. They are slightly bigger than recommended. It was ½ an inch. These are about 3/4 of an inch. This is how it looks inside. It's very neat. These are the types of facings I like, the ones that go above the bust. I don't like ones that go across that cut the bust at its fullest. Those don't look good. That is the side that has the button placket, as you can see, and this is the regular side seam. So if you don't want to have the button placket there, you can skip it, not put all those facings, and just sew your side seams like this one, like normal, and then you have a regular top that has the same fitting features, the same princess seams. You just won't have that button placket there. Here is my hem. I did sew it by hand because I didn't want any thread going through the colors of the stripes. That's a really big pet peeve of mine. So I've had fun styling this. You'll see it with every color here on the bottom. You're gonna see me wearing white pants, which I never wear. These are white jeans. I wanted to make my own white jeans for years, but I just can't find the right white denim. So I just bit the bullet and bought some. This is my first Santorini top from Itch to Stitch. I have a 14 bust and waist blended out to a 16 hip, and I've used a linen rayon blend that's got a lot of stripes, and I love it with my red skirt here. This is my Quebec skirt from Itch to Stitch. Design lines are very unique, and I think the shaping here is marvelous. Princess seams that come from the neckline, and you can see that the print distorts a little bit, so that's what I like about the stripes here, because it lets you show off the design lines. Even though this is a print, there is a button placket on the left side. It's functional but only decorative. You can get in and out through the head. I think the shaping on the back is very good, and also the shaping around the bust. There are cup sizes here. Mine is a C cup, and you can see how well this princess seams fits. I love how the stripes get distorted there. I made sure to mirror them so that the distortion is the same on both sides. Up closer you can see the neckline is underneath the clavicle, and the seam of the princess seam starts from the neckline. It's very unique, very well fitting, and on the back you also have those princess seams that start from the neckline. Finish inside is with an all-in-one facing, burrito methods, clean sleeveless finish. Red is one of the colors I can wear with this top, and I love it. Red is one of my faves. Here is my stripy top again, this time with black pants, just regular black linen pants and red shoes. There are only 3 colors I can use to match up with this top, and I have 3 options, which is great. This is just a very casual look. I could be dressed up like this all day, and I love the pairing with the black pants. I think this is classic. You can't go wrong pairing this to a black bottom. Could have also been a black skirt. And I just love the fit of this top. I think it's great, and it can work with any style of bottom in my opinion. And here we have white bottoms. I bought these jeans. I wish I could make them, but I can't find the correct type of white denim, so I just bit the bullet and bought these jeans. I really love them, and they really go with the white in there because the stripes have white. I'd be super careful with this outfit and just wear it to somewhere where I know I'll just be there for a tiny little while. I find white really difficult to manage and to keep white. So even though I love this look and I love how fresh it looks for hotter weather, it's an outfit I would really plan and think about where I'm going and if I'm gonna get dirty or not. So for my second one, I made a little change. I just lowered my neckline on the front by 1 inch. Kept the same width over here. That didn't change, it was just down here. So let me just quickly show you the pattern changes. I actually did cut up my pattern because when I make this top again, I will use it with a lower neckline. To lower this neckline, I pinned the center front and the side front together right there with a 1/2 inch seam allowance. And I've just lowered it by 1 inch, kept it straight, 90-degree angle for about 1.25 inches. And then with a curved ruler, I just found a nice curve. It's gonna keep it up here as per the original and then just blend right into that lower curve. This front facing follows the same shape here as you can see. So what I've done there, I'm gonna copy right here, and that's how I'm gonna match them. Another change I made with my second one is that it's a solid, it's a navy. I really wanted a nice navy top, and this one doesn't have the button placket. I just sewed the side seams as normal. I still have the facings inside. I used a cotton linen blend inside that's navy. It's all nice, it's all the same technique. They are both structured fabrics. When I feel them, they feel the same weight, so I was quite happy to blend that in. Technique was exactly the same. It's just that here we have a side seam that's normal and another side seam here that's normal. Same length, same size, everything exactly the same. I also did my hem by hand. I just think it looks so much nicer. This is how it looks inside. It's just as neat. It's very nice. So let's see this one styled a few ways. This is my second Santorini top from Each to Stitch. This is my first Santorini top from Each to Stitch. I have a 14 bust and waist blended out to a 16 hip. This time really simple navy. I really wanted a nice fitting top in this color. Here I've got it paired with my Mountain View jeans. It's got all the seam lines, but in this case I omitted the placket on the left side and just sewed the side seam as normal. So it's a much more simplified version of the top. It's the exact same fit, the same length, everything. This one has a neckline that's 1 inch lower than the original. I modified the facing to match that as well, but otherwise the technique and the all-in-one facing inside finish is all the same. I think with the solid you can also really see the beautiful princess seams here and the fit. With the solid I think you can always show off the design lines, and I love this top. It's so nice. Yeah, I wish I had time to make more in solid colors because it's gonna go with everything. Here are my white jeans again. I think navy and white is always so nice. I've got navy. I've just paired it with a tiny silk scarf just to give the outfit something extra to not make it look so basic. Again, with the white pants, I would really have to know where I'm going and somewhere very clean because I'd be super worried about staining the white pants. Love the navy and white look. I think it's so pretty, and it was about time I got myself some white bottoms. Now I want a white skirt, but love it. Love this look like this. A little bit dressed up, but not that much, you know? I've had these printed linen pants for a couple of months and I never had the right navy top to pair with them. You see the navy here is the same tone because these pants are tropical and a bit out there. I know I want to pair the outfit down with a darker color on top, and this navy Santorini top is perfect. Love it. I'm all in linen, I'm all fresh. I feel great in this type of fabric. I'm very happy with my makes. They are just so beautiful. I love working with these fabrics. These structured fabrics are just so much easier to work with, and if you're a bit newer to sewing, I think you'll be really happy and you won't be struggling with slippery fabrics and all of that. You notice I still do some hand basting because I'm just looking to get the best result possible, but it's not needed as much sometimes as when you work with difficult fabric. In this case, these fabrics are not difficult fabrics. They're easy to cut, they're easy to mark, they're easy to sew, they're easy to press, they're easy to wear. What else can I say? I love them. I love them as usual. I wish I'd made 10. I think the princess seam fit is gold. I love the details. I know that to show these details off and the shape of this princess seam that's different, a solid is always just going to highlight that more than a print, but that's always up to you. That's personal preference. I really enjoyed sewing mine. I hope you liked seeing this episode. Don't forget to check out the Santorini top, 20% off. As always, my affiliate link is in the description box of the video and I pin it in the comments so that it's easy for you to find. That's all from me. I will see you again very soon with more sewing. Bye.